Welcome to Sunrise Extra on a Tuesday. Another busy day just when you hope things calm down. We are talking about kind of a major snub in Oregon politics and law enforcement. So Governor Kate Brown putting out a plan to bring peace to the city after, many nights of protests, many nights of riots and vandalism. We saw another overnight, this time in the Pearl District, where Mayor Ted Wheeler rents an apartment down there. And this was the scene, in the middle of the street. People lit fires. They also lit a fire in the lobby of his building there near 10th and Gleason. A dental office that's on the ground floor of that building was broken into and burglarized. They took furniture out and lit it on fire. And that is, we've learned, a minority-owned dental office business. And calling on Wheeler to resign. Weirdly, it was his birthday yesterday, so they brought balloons and party hats and called on him to resign. 19 arrests overnight. So Governor Kate Brown, as part of her plan to bring peace, said she wanted to bring in first state troopers. Then she said, we're also going to bring in deputies from Clackamas and Washington County. But she didn't check with them first. She didn't mention anything first, and City of Gresham. And then yesterday, they made the bold statements of saying, no, we're not going to help. Not because we don't support Portland police, because we do, but because, Governor, you don't support us, you don't support law enforcement, and there's a district attorney that is not prosecuting these people. Brenda, you want to read this? Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's Sheriff Craig Roberts over in Clackamas County. And I find this very interesting as far as the behind-the-scenes process. So the sheriff says, had Governor Brown asked me, I would have told her that no amount of human resources will stop the cycle of violence. Her term is making Portland unsafe. For that to occur, the criminal justice system will need to do its part and hold offenders accountable. And Sheriff Roberts says that nobody asked him, nobody talked to him first. If you're the governor or your people, do you not reach out to these law enforcement agencies so you know what's coming, so you know what you're up against? That to me is stunning, if indeed it is as they say. You would have to know that, right?
No, absolutely. I'm surprised because when the plan was laid out, or at least when the governor spoke and said, here is the plan moving forward. Here's what I have in mind to help with the violence, the nightly violence in downtown Portland. She spelled it out and included calling on, among others, the Washington County and Clackamas County Sheriff's offices to offer and lend support. And you're reading that thinking, okay, they're aware of this ask. They know this is coming. But if you read the words from the sheriff there in Clackamas County, Craig Roberts, he says, no, I didn't know that. He learned about it as we learned about it when the governor made that announcement. So it is, I think stunning is a good way to phrase it, Brenda, because you would think there'd be conversations in private before something like this would go public.
Exactly. And what they're saying, the area agencies, what the unions are saying, as I'm hearing this, is that they want some hardcore assurances that things are going to change from here on out before they would even consider sending in deputies, officers, anything of that nature to address the protests here in Portland. Clearly, they have not gotten that. And
I was thinking about, what could be behind their decision. I mean, he laid it out pretty clearly there. I'm also thinking about, in Clackamas County, for example, there's a lot of rural areas of Clackamas County, and we've already heard about areas of Portland that are not getting the law enforcement right now that they may need. We just ran the story yesterday of the family who says their house was shot at 20 times. They called police and it took, how many minutes to get there? It wasn't fast, we'll put it that way. It was a long time before police were able to respond. Yeah. And we're hearing more and more reports like this, like the police in downtown Portland and throughout actually Portland as a city are now able to respond to calls like they used to because of all the focus being put and all the resources being put into downtown and the nightly protests and what have often been deemed riots. And so if you live in Clackamas County, do you want your law enforcement, those that you pay your taxes for, to be sent to fight, another fight, so to speak, when, you want those guys at the ready and available to help you out. That's why you pay your taxes for that particular law enforcement. So I did wonder, in the case of Clackamas County with so many rural residents that are far removed from the scene there in downtown Portland, do they find it fair to leave, their people, so to speak, their county folk, to come out and support something else? I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I thought about that myself this morning.
Yeah, we're getting tons of comments on the stream this morning. Charlene Miller-Simmons says, I want to support our governor, but we have got to stop this madness. And then Elizabeth Davis says, bring in the National Guard, and basically too little too late. I'm glad the other police departments and sheriffs aren't going in to help. They have their own work to do. Drew, to your point, that's exactly it.
And since you brought that up, we just received a few minutes before Sunrise Extra started. I know you saw this. I believe you did anyways, Nina and Brenda, the letter that was just sent from Secretary of State Chad Wolf to the mayor of Portland.
Of Homeland Security.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah. Homeland Security Director Chad Wolf to Mayor Ted Wheeler. And basically the letter says, Mr. Mayor, I urge you to request federal assistance to deal with what's happening in your city.
Yep, not making specific, dates or anything to bring them in, but definitely a letter to Wheeler threatening that. Washington County Sheriff Pat Garrett, just reiterating, Portland police, they are a terrific partner. I am very sympathetic to what they're enduring, but the lack of political support for public safety and this uncertain legal landscape, they just can't be part of it. And the district attorney, came out early when he took office, saying that he wouldn't prosecute cases where the most serious charges were a city ordinance violation. Assault and arson charges would still be prosecuted, but I think we're seeing, a lot of people get arrested, and they may be minor infractions on these nights of protests, and then just continuing to go out in subsequent nights and protest as well. So Brenda, you've been asking, what is it going to take, to end this?
The answer. Anita Wood totally taking issue with what we're talking about. She says totally biased reporting. How many tires did the police slash? The police took off a stringer's press pass, and they arrested her for not having a press pass just last night. So Anita, talk to me.
Yeah.
What would you like to see happen? How would you handle it? If you were the mayor, if you were the governor, what exactly would you do to get a handle on what's happening in Portland? I'm dead serious. Tell me. I'm really super curious about where you start to try and get things under control so people can go out and peacefully demonstrate, but you don't have all hell breaking loose.
Right. Here's a good point from Bob Hunter on Facebook. Good morning, Bob. He says, defund the police, but then siphon off of other agencies. How messed up is that? And, Ted Wheeler has been a supporter of the they did the move to take, I always forget, is it 15 or 50 million, Brenda, that they took away from Portland Police, the city council?
15
million.
Yeah.
They took away in a city council vote. And, I think it was a unanimous decision amongst the council. So you're taking away funding for the police, but then you're asking for help from other police agencies. And on the same thing as that, that you have a side of people downtown who are protesting, saying they want to abolish the police or defund the police. They don't like the police. But then they ask, where were you when, these counter protesters had pulled a gun, not the day that the man was shot and killed, but the other weekend, and saying, well, where were you, police? Why weren't you out protecting us? You can't, how do you have it both ways?
This is sort of what separates Sunrise Extra from our Sunrise newscast in the morning, really all the newscasts. We have an open dialogue, a live conversation, and just going by the numbers that I'm seeing on the Facebook live stream this morning, we have more live eyes watching us this morning than normal. A lot of people weighing on this topic, opposing views. I have back-to-back right on the stream right here. First from Jimmy Wong, who says, too bad the recall, referring to the attempt to recall Governor Brown. Too bad the recall failed, but look look at who counts the votes, says Jimmy Wong. And that got a thumbs up this morning from another one of our viewers on the stream. Prince Schumann weighed in just above that, saying, I'm so tired of the judgment of Governor Kate Brown. Can we sign a petition instead to get rid of Donald Trump? And that got a laughing emoji from another one of our viewers. But this is what this is all about, a forum for you to express your opinions, to share your views, and we definitely hear from what I always say, both sides of the fence, so to speak.
Antaros Oberon says give Commissioner Joanne Hardesty control of the police department. And James Hamburger says fire them all. They work for the people, not themselves.
That's a great point of who should be in charge of the police department. We have a new chief who's new on the job for just a few months now, Chief Chuck Lavelle, who obviously was thrown into a fire. And I've always respected Chuck Lavelle, and I know that he has a difficult job ahead of him, but it's always interesting to see who the people think should be in charge of that department. I'd like to hear, what the police think of that, right? I mean, who do they think should be in charge of that department, the decisions they make on a daily basis, because they're not easy.
Hey, Ben says, I'm watching news anchors on their phones, only paying half attention is riveting. Well, we're reading your comments on the live stream. We are watching you on YouTube, live comments. I've got Twitter pulled up.
Right.
Everyone's got Facebook pulled up. That's how we're sharing your comments live. That's how we're interacting with you. That's how the show works. Type in.
The only people that we pay half attention to is each other. But we're listening fully to what you have to say on all of our various streams, be it Twitter, Facebook, or on the YouTube page right now.
But it is pretty, I was watching, Pat Doris is just one of our long time reporters. And he was talking to those sheriffs last night, talking to our Dan Haggerty for the story. And it was kind of breaking news at that time of night, saying he had just heard from the sheriffs over the phone, and they just flat out said no. And he said in his, almost 30 years of working here, that he has never, seen kind of a, I don't want to say a middle finger, but almost, to a sitting governor of a state from a law enforcement official. And he just found it, very surprising. But this is where we are now.
Arnott says Portland police did this to themselves. Don't people remember when the surrounding agencies from different counties said they wouldn't back up the Portland Police Department due to errant agency policies a few years ago? Absolutely right. There is a long history of that. Some disagreements. Rhonda says reform the police, not defund. Police become very egotistical, all caps, and think they are judge and jury.
Okay, on Twitter, someone's saying, why aren't they reading Twitter? I see you. And something and a bunch of numbers says, he has 3 points, or he or she. First, the DA needs to either resign or give justice its chance. Second, Ted Wheeler should be given 10 days to clean up the situation, or else Trump should be in PDX. Not sure if you mean federal officers or actually Trump should visit himself. Third, Ted needs to do a post-mortem of where he went wrong. And fourth, he needs to resign and give justice its chance.
A threefold statement with 4 points.
Yes, sorry. It kept going.
I'm kidding. I'm giving you a hard time. Dorothy Long chiming in, sort of saying the same thing on the Facebook stream. And I'm having a hard time, I'll admit, viewers keeping up because these are pouring in so quickly.
Fast and furious.
I've hit the pause button to read Dorothy Long's. She says, I would arrest and prosecute, in bold letters, these troublemakers, as she says. If the police arrest them, then and she says, lame DA should prosecute. It's very embarrassing that the government will not do their jobs. And then she says in more bold letters, National Guard and feds needed.
And Tina Lovelace says National Guard isn't trained for riot control. How would they be different from the federal troops that were out of control? I'm tired of the riots too and wish there was an answer. Wish the ones rioting would just stop.
Tanya says liberal slant. 2 words, liberal slant. I say where, Tanya? We're trying to give you the most down the middle slant available to mankind.
And when our Pat Doris asked Kate Brown last night, well, why don't you, instead of, you got to know from all these sheriffs, why don't you ask the National Guard to either just be a presence and stand there in front of some of these buildings? She echoed that one viewer's comment saying, they're not trained in crowd control. They don't, carry weapons, and they wouldn't know what to, do in that situation. So that was her argument.
Eric Smith says, I may think I have all the answers, but I'm sure I don't. Please concentrate on the fix and not the blame. Keep asking what it will take to bring us all together.
Right.
Amy makes a point here in response to the Dorothy comment I read a moment ago, saying that if the police are making arrests, the DA should be prosecuting. Amy says the police do not get to decide on how people are prosecuted. It's not their job. Their job is to defend their citizens. She says it's much like a doctor who defends people's lives without regard to what their individual patient's personal beliefs may be.
Yeah.
And that
It is
comment got
sad
a heart.
to hear, though. We have a story online right now we did last night about, a small business owner. He had a burglary in his bar, and the whole ATM was stolen. And police, didn't show up for hours and hours. But he gets it. It's like, well, they're stretched thin. They're staffing for overnights. So there's, fewer officers on the street to respond to those calls, but it's going to be another situation of, hopefully someone doesn't really get hurt while, they're all busy with this.
Antaros is weighing in again, saying even if you arrest people, you cannot take away their right to assemble. Arresting is not a long-term solution. People need to dialogue and solve the problems. And then David says, thanks for the open dialogue. I really appreciate this. We appreciate you being part of the conversation.
My thumb hurts. I'm moving so far up and down the stream, and I can't stop the comments fast enough to actually read them out loud. Margot chimes in, and she gives a shout out to veteran KHW reporter Pat Doris, who I think we agree with her first line here, no question about it. She says Pat Doris is doing a good job with asking tougher questions these days. Please don't let up on the governor or the mayor. And I don't think you'll find 3 people that respect Pat's work more than the 3 people who are looking at you right now through the screen. So, and I would agree. I just mentioned Pat to one of my friends last night in the neighborhood. Said, that guy has been doing this forever. And, to wake up every day, Pat knows what's at stake for him. He's got to go down and continue to ask those tough questions. He doesn't have fun stories to cover every once in a while, right? Every day he's dealing with these stories. And so I'm giving you a shout out too, Pat Doris. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, no kidding.
Boy, oh boy. Yep.
That's it? Man, I've got to... Time flies when you have more comments than you can possibly get to in the middle of a 20-minute live segment.
But I love that. I mean, people are fired up.
Well, I wonder what's going to happen today, because no one has commented now after the sheriff said, sorry, we're not going to help you. Kate Brown's office, hasn't gotten back to anyone for a comment on that. I wonder if she'll have another, press conference, or if she just won't want to publicly kind of face that.
No, you got to. You can't.
Well, sure, you definitely need to, but I'm just saying it's been a pattern of, she'll release a statement or something maybe, but we'll see what happens.
A statement, a 10 a.m.
And then
news
you've got,
conference,
acting Department of Homeland Security chief saying he'll bring them in if she doesn't do anything.
Well, news will develop throughout the day. I'm pretty confident in saying that. It will be covered throughout the day. We'll come back tomorrow morning. We'll tell you about it on Sunrise, and then we'll talk about it with you here on Sunrise Extra. That's our plan for the next 24 hours.
Thanks for chatting, guys.